Hello, it's Bessie here from the Self-Led Artist, and I'm so happy to share an orientation, a solo podcast, a meditation for those listening. I hope it can allow artists who listen to feel more oriented towards their truth, to allow those listening to feel more coherent and present in their bodies, and allowing that to be the starting point for the transformation that can take place in their inner and external reality when frameworks and structure are embodied. So I'm hoping this will help you make sense of some chaos or fragmentation internally. That's always my aim, to try and allow simplicity where there is complexity. And this is an orientation for you. And I want to begin by naming something that's really easy to miss because it's so familiar. Most artists are taught how to move before they're ever taught how to stand within themselves. They're taught how to move before how to make it work, how to develop a voice, how to be truly visible without losing yourself, how to share without losing yourself, how to grow, how to survive. And there's a lot of instruction around there, in the public sphere that covers momentum. It covers output. It covers how to become something. And there's far less attention given to orientation, to where a person is actually located inside their own life before they begin moving, because it's different for every one of us. And sometimes we just need to know what questions we need to ask ourselves. How can we meet ourselves deeply enough to understand what our unique path looks like? Because without that sense of location, movement can start to feel exhausting. Even when things are going really well, even when there's progress, there can be effort without traction. You'll find that there's motion, but there's no grounding. There's intensity and excitement, but there's not, this continued sense of sustainability within your creative life. And it's not because something is wrong, but the ground and the grounding hasn't been named yet. So the work that I do under the Self-Led Artist, it exists to address the missing layers. This is not about motivation or productivity here, as much as that is a part of your sustainability and forward momentum. It's not about fixing, healing you, transforming yourself into someone else. It's about learning how to orient yourself, how to understand where you are presently, what you're standing on, and what kind of movement actually makes sense from here. Because from here, the movement will feel very different to yourself in a year or 2 years. And continuously coming back to that orientation will allow you to flow in the most aligned direction. And orientation, it's quieter than inspiration. It doesn't come with a rush. It comes with a sense of recognition. It's almost like the body is like sighing and saying, yes, this is where I am. And when that happens, decisions don't need to be forced. They can begin to emerge with a different quality. There'll be less urgency, less reactivity, more coherence. And coherence, it doesn't mean everything needs to be easy all the time. It just means the parts of you and separate parts of you are no longer pulling in different directions at once. There's clarity. And when coherence arrives, artists, especially sensitive artists, feel more present in their bodies and less split, less scattered internally, less tempted to over-interpret every feeling, every sign. There's a sense of standing somewhere solid, even if the future isn't mapped out yet. So that's what orientation offers. It's actually super important for all of us to have this experience in order to create the lives that we want, especially as creative people, especially now at this time. So the framework that I use to support this, and the framework that I've created with my research, is called C.R.A.D.S. Not as a system to follow rigidly, but as a way of noticing what's foundational. So that stands for C, which is creative identity. That's your bottom layer. R, regulation. A is for artistry. You could also consider that to be your mastery layer. D is for direction. And S is for sustainability. And the pillars follow those layers. C.R.A.D.S. Creative identity first, regulation second, artistry and mastery third, direction fourth, sustainability fifth. And creative identity is where everything begins. So that's not identity as performance or a persona, but identity as authorship. That sense of you're the author of your life, rather than just a character responding to external cues. And it's actually surprisingly rare for artists to be asked who they are when no one is watching. When there's no response, who are you? No feedback loops. But that unwitnessed self is the one that carries the work forward over time. Creative identity asks you to notice where you still rely on being mirrored in order to feel real. It asks you to notice where a reaction gives you a sense of existence, where recognition, urgent recognition sometimes, can substitute for self-trust. And this isn't something to judge. We're all human. It's just something to notice gently, because many of us were taught, implicitly or explicitly, that being seen was the same as being valued. But over time, that can create a subtle instability. It can create a sense that you don't fully arrive in yourself until someone reflects you back. And creative identity stabilises when authorship begins internally. When you can feel yourself existing even in the absence of response. When you realise that your work doesn't disappear when no one comments on it. And your sense of self, it doesn't fluctuate dramatically with attention. It's about making yourself rooted. And as creative identity settles, something becomes possible. The next pillar, regulation. This is our second pillar. Regulation is not about calming yourself down or managing emotions all the time. It's about understanding how your system actually works and how different states influence perception and decision making and choices that you make in the world. So many artists live with a high tolerance for intensity. So they're used to being activated, they're used to stimulation, they're used to urgency. In fact, a lot of artists lean into it. Those states can feel familiar and even productive, but it doesn't mean that it's accurate. So regulation invites you to notice the state that you're in before you interpret meaning. It can ask really simple, precise questions like, what happens in my body when I feel rushed? How do I actually behave when I'm overstimulated? What does steadiness actually feel like physically in me? Because when regulation isn't present, urgency in our careers and in our artistry becomes the default driver, sometimes for years if we're not at the forefront of the steering wheel. So decisions can get made quickly or not at all. And there's a push to resolve things just to escape the discomfort of not knowing. But when regulation strengthens, something shifts. There's more space between sensation and action. There's less need to immediately label or explain what's happening. This creates a different relationship with your intuition. So your intuition stops being conflated with intensity. It becomes quieter, slower, more grounded. And from there, artistry can deepen. And artistry is our third pillar. Artistry in this framework, it isn't about talent or expression. It's about devotion and about what you're willing to stay with over time. Because many artists are surrounded by ideas they love, but they don't fully inhabit them. They've got projects that excite them initially, but they can become difficult once repetition sets in. They have these fantasies of mastery that falter when the work becomes ordinary. Artistry asks you to notice where you leave yourself, where boredom or self-doubt can be triggered, avoidance gets triggered. And boredom's often misunderstood. It's not always a sign of misalignment. Sometimes it's just a sign that you've crossed from stimulation into depth. And artistry matures when repetition stops feeling like a failure and starts feeling like a practice. When your work doesn't need to impress you every day in order for it to continue. It becomes a devotion, it becomes a discipline. When you can stay even when it's quiet, even when no one's watching. This is where bodies of work are built, slowly, without drama. And as artistry stabilises, direction becomes clearer too, but not in the way people expect. And that brings us to our fourth pillar, direction. Direction isn't a destination. It's an orientation towards the current season of your life. Most confusion around direction comes from trying to answer permanent questions in temporary moments. Your orientation right now, as I said, may be different 2 months down the line. Confusion and fragmentation can happen when you're trying to move as if you're in a different phase than the one that you're actually inhabiting. And direction asks you to tell the truth about timing, about capacity, about what's realistic right now. It can ask you, what season am I in? Am I planting? Am I tending? Am I harvesting? Am I resting? Am I dismantling something? Am I full steam ahead? Am I running? And each season has got its own logic. It's got its own pace and its own expectations. So when you act out of season and out of alignment with your body's natural movement, effort will increase but coherence will decrease. And direction clarifies through movement, not certainty. So through choosing something small enough to carry to start with, rather than waiting for this perfect vision to arrive. And when direction for your current orientation is the right size, it doesn't consume you, it steadies you. And that's when sustainability, which is our fifth pillar, enters the picture. So in an artist's career or life, and they tend to be the same thing when you're an artist, sustainability is often treated as an afterthought. It's something to address once success is achieved. But in reality, it's foundational. It's the question of whether your life can actually hold the work you care about over time. And sustainability isn't resilience or endurance, it's design. It's about creating structures that support continuity without requiring constant effort or crisis, or constant pushing, constant striving. Sustainability will ask you, what in my life only works when I'm pushing? What systems are actually missing for me? What would allow this to continue without it costing me my health, relationships, or sense of self? Because when sustainability is absent, urgency and pushing through becomes a substitute and crisis becomes the motivator. And then you end up in these burnout cycles, which as artists we all know very well. When sustainability is present, rhythm replaces urgency. Work becomes something you can live with, not something you survive. So when these 5 layers begin to align, creative identity, regulation, artistry, direction, sustainability, artists often describe this sense of coming home, not in a sentimental way, but in a grounded one. It's like arriving back into your body, like you no longer need to outrun yourself. And there's less chasing all of a sudden, there's less second guessing, there's fewer dramatic pivots, and decisions feel simpler, even when they're not always easy. Because you're in alignment with yourself, you're coherent. And being self-led, because I truly believe under these pillars and this framework, the definition of self-led artistry lives at the heart of this. Being self-led, it doesn't mean isolation, it doesn't mean refusing support or connection. It means that you don't give away your authorship and yourself being the author of your life in order to feel safe or seen or feel like you belong at the expense of your own coherence and truth. So you can allow support without dependency. You can allow visibility without performance. It's just true and authentic and real and present. You can allow connection without fusion or saving others. And it ultimately means building a creative life that you can stand inside and you can live inside. Once orientation is present like this, there are really so many ways that you can explore depth. You can explore how you make decisions, how you finish your work, how you work with time, energy, visibility, how you allow seasons of consolidation without interpreting them as failure. But none of that holds without first knowing who you are and where you are. Orientation doesn't arrive as a breakthrough, it will arrive as recognition. It's the end point of you arguing with reality. It's this quiet acceptance of the truth of your current position. And from there, movement can become less frantic, less charged, less performative. And from that place, whatever comes next has a chance to actually be real out in the world. So I'm going to end this with 10 questions that you can ask yourself to lean further into your truest orientation, therefore leaning into the truest version of yourself, therefore leaning into the truest actualization of your life. Here are the 10 questions. Question 1. Where are you standing right now, really, in your creative life? Question 2. Who are you when no one is responding to you? Question 3. What part of your life feels solid, even without reassurance? Question 4. What state are you usually in when you make decisions? Question 5. What do you keep returning to, even when it's quiet or unglamorous? Question 6. What season are you actually in, not the one you wish you were in? Question 7. What feels premature to push right now? Question 8. What would change if you stopped rushing to resolve things? Question 9. What would allow this phase of your life to continue with more steadiness? And question 10. What might become possible if you stood exactly where you are without trying to move yet? I'm so grateful to have been given the opportunity to share this framework, this orientation, these ideas. And I can feel the importance of it for many that need a sense of structure, coherence, and grounding in a world, externally and internally, that can feel urgent, fragmented, indecisive, and confusing. I'm grateful for you being here with me today.